Hi! So today I'm going to show you how to make an MTA doll. Now MTA is this right here, Mother Thrice Admirable. It's the Queen and Victress of Schoenstatt. This is kind of our symbol, our image of Mary in the Schoenstatt movement, which is a Catholic movement. So I've worked on making dolls that actually mimic this so that kids can play with them. They can have that physical representation of Mary. And also it's for me, it's a capital of grace. I can work on this and pray for the child, pray for somebody, and be able to then afterwards offer this beautiful capital of grace for them. See, I did give her hair. You have multiple options for hair colors. But so in this video, I'm going to be going step by step and showing you how to make this MTA doll. You are going to need worsted weight yarn. This doll pattern, by the way, just the pattern, the head, arms, and body, could be used to make a variety of different saints. Here I've made a Saint Anthony with the same pattern, and even a Saint Catherine of Siena. So you can use this to make other dolls as well. I believe that this pattern is super easy and simple compared to a lot of doll patterns. Notice she does not have any legs, and the arm is actually made as one big piece. This is all going to be worsted weight yarn. You do need a 4mm hook, some scissors, a needle, and whatever color yarn you need is dependent on what saint you're making. Obviously, if you're making the MTA saint, you're going to need white, skin color, blue, and pink, as well as hair color if you prefer that. The first thing you're going to do is make the arms. So this is going to be one long extended piece all the way across. So the first thing we'll do is we'll chain 28, then skip the first 2 chains and single stitch along the entire row. You should make 26 single crochet stitches across. Also, you can notice I'm picking pink because if we look at the MTA, you can see right there her pink sleeve is sticking out. Really, that's my only indication of her dress likely being pink. So there. Now I'm going to turn around and repeat the exact same thing, single stitching all the way across. Now I'm going to do this for 4 rows total. There'll be 4 rows of single crochet. This is now my second row of single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and return back once you've finished your 4 rows of single crochet. Now I've completed my arm. So what we're going to do is you're going to finish off and we're going to cut a very long piece because we're going to be sewing the arm together to create the cylinder shape. Pull through. I'm going to thread my yarn needle. What you're going to want to do is take your arm and bend it in half and then sew across. So each stitch you're sewing across, I personally typically sew them together like this. However, I know I'm not the best at sewing, so if you have a better way to do it, that's great. But you're basically wanting to sew it all the way around so that we can have her arms. So as you can see, now we'll have a cylinder, and we're gonna add her hands to the top of each side later. So go ahead and sew all the way across. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video, and I'll return once I've finished. All right. Once you've finished, you have that long cylinder, and that's what's going to go into the body. We're going to create 2 holes and create her arms. Now you might notice I still have a really long piece. That's because I'm actually going to use it to sew it in to make sure all the stitching around it is closed, so you can see it's very sealed, nothing's coming out. I also tied off the 2 pieces together just to give it some extra stability. Okay, now that we're done with this, we can actually start on the body. So this again is something that you can use for a lot of different dolls, different saints. We're gonna be starting with the head. So you're gonna take your whatever skin color yarn that you are wanting to use. Keep in mind all of this should be worsted weight yarn. And you're going to take your 4mm hook again. And we're going to start out with a circle. That's going to increase by 6 stitches each time out. So make chain of 2, and then put 6 stitches inside of that first chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and 6. We will be making this in rounds, but you do not need to tie off each end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to put 2 single crochet stitches in each single crochet. So now I'm going to put, so I'm going to go around and it'll be 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You're awesome. I'm also going to point out that if you think this starts looking ugly, remember all of this is going to be hidden right at the top of her head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just double checking. So now that I have 12, I'm going to go around and I'm going to do a single stitch and then an increase. So 2 single crochet stitches in each. So every other one will be double. And I should go all the way around and make it to 18. Once I made it to 18. Now if you're having a hard time remembering and counting these stitches, you could be using a stitch counter to help you remember where your first stitch is for each one as you're going through. Whatever works easiest for you. So now I'm going to do 2 single crochets and then 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. And I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around until I have 24 stitches. Now once I've gone all the way around and I've made 24 stitches, I'm going to do now 3 single crochets and then an increase, so 2 single crochets in that 4th stitch. And then I'm going to continue that pattern all the way around until I get to 30, which I'll end up at the very beginning. Yarn's got caught. So now I've got 30 stitches all the way around. And now I'm going to do 1 more increase. I'm going to do 4 stitches, so 4 single crochets, 2, 3, 4, and then an increase. So that's 6 stitches. I'm going to repeat that 6 times until I get to 36 stitches. I should have 36 stitches all the way around. So now what we're going to do is you're going to do 6 rows of single crochet all the way around. So with no increases, you're just gonna go around 6 times. I normally pull out the piece, the tail end piece to pull over. You can use a stitch marker to help you remember where that first stitch is. And you're going to do 6 rows. And these are gonna be continuous rows. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the recording. Go ahead and pause your video. And once you've finished, go ahead and resume. All right, now I have my 6 rows of single crochet. You can notice I've got the dome shaped. It's looking more and more like her head. And now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing decreases just like we did increases to start out. Now we're going to do decreases inwards until we get to her neck. And this will be going straight into her neck and her body, so there won't be any cutting off or anything like that. So, the first thing I'll do is you will make 4 stitches. 2, 3, 4. And then do a decrease. So you're going to take the next 2 stitches and do a single crochet inside of both together. And then again, we're going to repeat this all the way around until you have 30 stitches. Notice also that I have the outside of the stitch on the outside of the head and inside what's facing towards me on the inside. So now I've gone all the way around, I have 30 stitches. Now I can do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. So going into the next 2 stitches and single crochet. You're gonna go all the way around and you're gonna have 24 stitches. So you've already had 4. right, and then at the end you should only have 24 stitches. So we went around each time with 4. Now you're gonna do 2 single crochets and then a decrease. And you're gonna go all the way around until you get 18. Now we've gone around, we should have 18 stitches. All right, now we're doing another decrease. So you're gonna do 1 single crochet and then you're gonna do a decrease. And you should go all the way around until you have 12 stitches. All right, now once you've got it to the point where you are 12 stitches around, this is where I would start stuffing using polyfill to stuff the head. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this while I'm stuffing, and then I'll come back to you when we continue. All right, now once you've got it to the point where you are 12 stitches around, this is where I would start stuffing using polyfill to stuff the head. Gonna go ahead and pause this while I'm stuffing, and then I'll come back to you when we continue. All right, now that I've stuffed, I'm gonna go around. I'm gonna do 1 single crochet and then a decrease. Do note that if you're not the best at stuffing, this is kind of the best place to be, especially for the MTA doll specifically, because this part's gonna hide if there's any kind of holes or if you overstuffed or anything. This kind of covers that up and helps hide that. But again, that's a single crochet and then a decrease single crochet. And we're gonna be doing that all the way around until we have 8 stitches. Now we've completed the head. So now we're gonna start on the neck. Now if you're making a saint that might have like a collar or might have something on their neck, you can change colors here. However, for her, we're gonna keep it. So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna do 2 rows of single crochet. And keep in mind, I have 8 stitches all the way across, so I'm gonna have 2 rounds of 8 single crochet. I'll go ahead and pause the video. All right, now this is what it should look like. Now we've got a little neck. What you're gonna wanna do now, you're going to slip stitch into the second one, into the second stitch that you have, using whatever yarn you're planning on using for the body. And so here I'm going to be putting her in a pink dress. So I'm going to take my pink yarn and I'm going to put it in. Now I'm going to put increase stitches all the way around. So at the end, I should have 16 stitches. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this. All right, now that I've got 16 stitches of my pink yarn, I'm going to go in and do one single crochet and then an increase. I'm going to repeat that pattern all the way around until I have 24 stitches. Notice also I put my tails of my yarn into my neck. I'm also going to slightly stuff the neck as well to give some stability. All right, now we have 24 stitches all the way around in our pink yarn. Now, this is gonna be the first time we're gonna use something other than single crochet. We're actually going to do a double crochet. We're gonna do a double crochet for 11 stitches, not 12, 11. So one, pull my yarn a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now that you have 11 double crochet stitches all the way across, you're going to make one chain and you're going to skip a stitch. And then double crochet, now 11 stitches. 1, 11 stitches, and then you're going to make one chain and you're going to skip a stitch. Now, after you've skipped that stitch, you're going to make a single crochet all the way around. And you're going to continue to go all the way around for 15 rows. Now you might be thinking, why did we leave those two openings? I'm going to show you once we get all the way around. I'm going to give myself one row first, and then I'm going to show you. I'm going to also give you another option you can do instead of just doing straight 15 rows. So I'm first going to single crochet all the way around, should be 24 stitches because you also are going to be single crocheting into your chain 1 space. That does get its own single crochet. So when you go all the way around, you should have 24 single crochet stitches. And so forth. Now what we're gonna do is in those 2 chain stitch holes, this is actually where you're going to put your arms through. So the way I personally do it is I take my hook, I go through both holes. Oops, lost that hole. Take my extra string that I have, pull those through. And then pull the arms through. And there you go. Don't worry about getting her perfectly even because we're going to fix that later once we are stitching this in. And I'm going to use this yarn to make sure to stitch all around the outside to make sure none of the stuffing comes out. But that's how we're attaching those arms. Now, depending on who you're making right now, you might want to choose to go straight down if you want just a straight body like the St. Anthony doll. Sometimes with Mary dolls, we give her belts. It's so you can taper in to give her an area for a belt. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Know that if you're choosing not to do that, you are just going to be doing 15 rows of single stitches, which we've already done 1. So 14 more rows of single crochet stitches. If, however, you want to taper in, you could taper in a bunch of different ways depending on how much you want to taper in. I'm going to do one way, and I'm going to do it every third. So I'm going to do 2 single crochet stitches, which I had actually already done earlier, and then a decrease. And I'm going to do this all the way around. All right. Now I should have 18 stitches all the way around. Now what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to go around, single crochet all the way around. So I'm going to single crochet around 18 stitches. after I've gone around. Now you might want to choose to do that a second time if you want it to stay a little bit longer, if you're building in a belt. Since she's not going to have a belt, I'm not going to do that. I'm instead going to go ahead and increase the exact same way I decreased earlier. So I'm going to do 2 single crochet stitches, and then I'm going to put 2 single crochet stitches into 1 stitch, so an increase. I'm going to continue that all the way around until I have 24 stitches. Alright, and then we're just going to keep single crocheting. So you can notice I've already done 1, 2, 3, and this is not going to be my 4th. And keep in mind you're going to be doing this for 15 more stitches. You're just going to keep going around with single crochets. Once you've finished, I'm going to actually pause this recording and show you what you do once you finish. Oh, but one other note, this is kind of the most mindless aspect of when we're going to be crocheting for this doll. The one part where we're really not having to think or count as much. This is a great time to be praying for the person that's going to be playing with this doll, the person that you're giving this doll to, or whatever your prayer request is. This is going to be a great capital of grace for them. Alright, now I've done 15 single crochet stitches all the way around, and I'm ready to bring it in. So I did go ahead and start stuffing. I would advise too making sure to stuff now so you can stuff in up here above where we have the arms inside of the body, because you also want that to be stuffed as well. Stuff up there, and then what we're going to do is you are going to do a decrease and then a single crochet all the way around, and then you'll have 12 stitches. I'm gonna go ahead and pause here. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, now everything has been tied off. Went ahead and stitched around as well and tied it off. I'm gonna work on sewing on the arms. So I wanna make sure that our arms are even before I start sewing. Now I'm sure there is a better way to do this. I am not best when it comes to sewing. So if there is a better way, please let me know. But so far, the way that I've been doing it has been working. So I'm going to take my needle, go straight through. Now if you didn't give yourself enough length, you could always just start over with that same color that we're using for the dress. So that same pink color. And then we're just going to be sewing all around, making sure that everything is connected, stays tight, nothing falls out. None of the stuffing comes out as well. I was kind of surprised when I first tried this that the stuffing wasn't falling out after I sewed it in. After I feel good about all my sides, I can go over to the other arm. So you can see how there's a space there. What I'm going to be doing is sewing around just to tighten that up. sewing kind of all the way around, making sure nothing can really come out. Now, after you have finished one of the ways I personally like to tie off, oh, I took this out of my needle, shouldn't have. Go ahead and push this all the way to the other side, underneath where kind of her armpit is almost, and take the other string. And I do this just to make sure it's extra, extra secure. There is no concerns about anything coming out, becoming a choking hazard, or anything like that. Going to bring my needle down the exact same spot. And now I can tie off these two pieces and sew in my end. Right now that I have the doll mostly finished, I'm going to do her hands, as you can see here. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go straight into where there's a circle, and you're gonna do this for both hands. I'm just gonna show you one. Gonna slip stitch in. Gonna chain one. And then I'm gonna loop one. Go into the next stitch. Loop one, pull, and pull. It's almost a double crochet. Then we do the exact same thing. So loop over. Go into where we can find the next stitch, loop in, and then loop through again. And I'm gonna keep doing that all the way around. Loop over, insert the next stitch, loop over and come back in, and then loop over and loop in again. So basically just combining a bunch of double crochets. And now I'm gonna go, see I've got a bunch of loops. I'm gonna take one loop and go straight through, and then chain one, and then tie off. I'm gonna tie these together. And then I can sew in those ends and I'm done. And that's all of the hands, and that's the basic body of the doll that you can again use for a lot of different saints. There's a Saint Anthony and a Saint Catherine of Siena. And so now I'm gonna start working on stuff that's a little bit more specific to the MTA, like the baby Jesus, the blue mantle, and the white hairpiece, or headpiece. I'll go ahead and pause this so I can go ahead and make the other hand. Go ahead and do that as well for your own video. All right, the next thing I'm gonna try to make is baby Jesus. So I'm gonna start out baby Jesus very similarly to the way that I started out my Mary. Make chain 2, and then in that first chain, I'm gonna do 6 single crochets. Again, I'm using my 4mm hook. All right, and what we're gonna do next is we're gonna go around and do an increase in each stitch. And then we'll have 12 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, Right, so now I should have 12 stitches all the way around. So again, this is the baby Jesus that we're working on making. So what I'm gonna do next is I'll just be doing single crochets all the way around. Now the only weird part here is gonna be adding in your skin colored yarn for the baby's face. So this has him swaddled. I know that this picture does not have him swaddled, but this is the way to kind of make a baby Jesus without having to get really thin specific yarn. So we're gonna do 2 single crochets. And then in the next one, I'm gonna do half of the single crochet, and then I'm going to change my yarn to skin color. I'm gonna tie off these two, well actually I'll do that in a second. And then I'm gonna continue to go for 2 more stitches. And that one's in, that one. And before I finish off the second stitch, I'm actually gonna switch back over to my white yarn. To loop through. All right, now that I've switched back over to white, I'm gonna continue to go all the way around. Until I get back to where I have the skin colored yarn to my last white. I'm going to loop over, and now I'm going to switch back to my skin colored yarn, pull the white one in, and pull through, so then I can do these next 2 stitches in skin colored yarn. And on the second one, only get halfway before I then switch back to white. Now at this point, I am just doing white for the rest of our Jesus. So I'm gonna cut off the end, and I'm gonna tie these 2 together so nothing gets too loose. And then we're just gonna keep on going around with white until you reach the length that you want for Jesus. If you feel like that's too long or too short, you can go a different route, that's okay. But you're just gonna be going around in circles until you feel like you've got it. Once you do, you're gonna do exactly what we did for the increase. You're gonna decrease all of them all the way around until you get to the end, and then you'll tie off. Leave some extra white yarn because you're going to want that so you can sew Jesus into Mary's body. Now that's why Jesus is so tight on here. All right, so now we have finished our baby Jesus. You can see I've still got my ends, and I've got plenty of string to be able to sew on Jesus later. Next, we're gonna work on Mary's mantle. So I made a chain of 15 stitches. Now I'm gonna skip the first 2, and then I'm gonna put 2 double crochets into each stitch all the way across. So again, that is 2 double crochets in each stitch all the way across. Just gonna allow it to go up to her neck and then around her shoulders. You can go ahead and pause the video. I'm gonna pause the recording and we'll return back to you once we finish this row. All right, so now that I've finished this row, I can show you how it'll end up working. We'll end up pulling it all together. We'll sew it down there, go across. We do need to go out a little bit more. So we're going to turn, double crochet into the first stitch, and then do 2 double crochets into the next stitch. And we're going to repeat that same pattern all the way across. So 1 double crochet, and then 2 double crochet in a single stitch. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this video. Go ahead and pause it yourself. All right, now that we've finished, another row just to give you an idea of what it's looking like. Just look like this if you put it on. So we do obviously want it to be a bit longer, so we're gonna do another round of double crochet. This time it's gonna just be 1 double crochet in each stitch. So you're gonna go around, each stitch gets 1 double crochet. And go ahead and pause your video. Right after that, you can see we're getting much closer, and I'm gonna do 1 more double crochet all the way around. Once I'm done with that, you can tie off your ends and go ahead, make sure, we'll cut off your ends, make sure you give yourself a lot of slack so that you're able to sew this in. We are gonna sew these 2 pieces on the outside together to go around. And we're gonna make sure to sew it on her a bit just so it's not likely to get ripped off. So go ahead though, double crochet all the way around and cut off. Right now we have our Mary doll, our mantle, our baby Jesus. Now we're looking at trying to make that white head covering that she has in here. What we're going to do is you're going to take your white yarn, take your hook, chain 2, and I'm going to double crochet 10 double crochets in that first stitch. Right, now just to show you kind of where this is right here. So we're going to be going around in circles back here. So now we're going to put 2 double crochets in each stitch. I'll put 2 double crochets in each stitch, and I'm going to have 20. There's 2. 3, oh, lost my yarn, 4, 5, gone around. Now I'm gonna go around again, and this time I'm gonna do 1 double crochet, and then I'm gonna do 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And I'm gonna go all the way around like this, and at the end I'll have 30. Now that I've gotten to 30 stitches all the way around, I'm gonna do 2 more rows of double crochet. 2 more rows all the way around of double crochet, just 1 double crochet per stitch. Go ahead and pause your video. Now what you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch. So we've gone all the way around with 2 rows. And then I'm going to chain 15. 1, 2, 5, 6, 11, 12, 15. All right, now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to double crochet all the way through the chain, skipping the first 2. All right, now once you get through the entire chain, what you're actually going to do is now continue around the rest of the circle. So as you're gonna go, we're just gonna keep going and pretend like it's just an extension. And so we're gonna go through the rest of the circle. Give you an idea kind of what this will look like as we're going through. It's gonna go around and each part will be covering. So continue to go all the way around, and then once you get to where you chained 15, we'll be doing something new. Be chaining another. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let this cross all the way over. And I'm gonna put a slip stitch across. Slip stitched it on, and then I'm going to chain 21. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to skip 2 and double crochet on my way back. All right, now once I've crocheted all the way down to the stitch, I'm going to flip it around so it'll go just like that over. I'm gonna slip stitch into that part. And then I can cut off, make sure you cut off a really large piece because we're gonna be sewing this on. All right. Now we can start putting her together. The first thing I'll put on is her mantle. So go ahead, get your yarn needle and thread it. We're gonna cross it over her body. And then where it's in the middle, back is also in the middle. I'm going to be first sewing the mantle shut. This is just because that's what I'm imagining she looks like. Obviously, I'm looking at the MTA picture and I'm not able to really see what exactly she looks like, but this is the way I like to do it. Keep stitching all the way to the very top. Connecting those parts together, so now it's all one piece. Now I'm gonna sew it into her body just to make sure it is extra stable, especially up at the neck. You can do this however you'd like to. You know how this is going to be used. Especially around the shoulders. This also gives us a bit more stability the more you go around the shoulders for those arms we've also sewn in. so I got one side much better. I need to work on my other side. But again, this is definitely just a preference of how I feel like represents the MTA picture. You might feel different, and that's okay. And I'm also gonna tie it off. I wouldn't cut anything until you're totally finished, because you might want more of that to be able to sew on for baby Jesus, which that's what we're going to do next. So I'm gonna take my baby Jesus, my end, thread my yarn needle, so this is a personal decision on where you want to place Jesus. I'm gonna place him right here. All right, now that I have finished my hair, I'm gonna add her head covering. And these 2 long chains that we had made earlier are going to go around her neck. Like so. And then it's just sewing everything in place so that it stays. So once you've sewn all of this on, you'll actually be done, and I'll show you the product in a minute. So go ahead and pause your video. All right, then after you've sewn in all your ends, you're done. So you can see we've got some hair back here. I went ahead and gave her her haircut. Oh, I missed a strand. Similar to the brown hair. I'm not gonna show eyes because I feel like there's ways way better to make eyes that other people have YouTube videos on. You should definitely check those out. Pick out how you want to make your eyes for Mary. I gave 2 separate options of kind of options that I normally offer. But yeah, this basic stitch though, the basic doll can be used to make so many other saints as well. It's really great. I feel like it's an easy pattern that just about anybody can do. And so I hope this is useful for you and that you're able to make some MTA dolls so that kids can have that physical representation of Mary.